Am I reading this correctly? It's the end of 2025, and Capcom have just confirmed that more Devil May Cry projects are on the way. So first and foremost, a huge thank you to the community member in my Discord who managed to drop this at my feet. No idea how I managed to miss this, because it looks like this has been out for a couple of days at least, but this statement comes from Capcom's integrated report for 2025. Annually, it looks like Capcom do a bit of a breakdown of how the business has performed, their high points, they touch upon their long-term development goals, and broadly cover what it is that they want to be doing in the future. Albeit, if you're a fan of games, you're not really going to find any hints or teasers, usually. However, tucked away in a corner of the report, under the words of Capcom's Chief Operations Officer, I presume, Haruhiro Tsujimoto, there are a few words here, or a sentence or two, that I think DMC fans and just Capcom fans in general might like. So I won't go over this entirely verbatim because it is quite lengthy, but they touch upon their annual operating profit, improving the chances of their successes, going through challenges, focusing on core IPs, yada yada yada. What we really want to talk about is this next piece. We consistently release 2 or 3 major titles each year, but recognize the need to grow our pipeline going forward. Capcom owns a wealth of globally popular brands, such as Mega Man, Devil May Cry, and Ace Attorney. We aim to expand our user base and improve our performance through new releases, remakes, and ports of titles in these series to new hardware. By enhancing brand power and cultivating loyal fan bases, we will grow these into core IPs. And so there we have it in black and white, the truth out in the wash. Capcom have certainly taken notice of the upheaval in Devil May Cry's recent popularity, and it looks as though they're going to be expanding the series into more of a core IP, whatever that means, through potential new releases, remakes, and ports. If you've been living under a rock, or perhaps have missed out on some of my prior videos on the topic, Devil May Cry has done really well this year. Part of that can be attributed to the Netflix show, part of that could be attributed to some of the collaborations like Punishing Grey Raven. Basically, Devil May Cry has outsold some of Capcom's core IPs like Monster Hunter. It's done really, really well, so I'm not surprised that they've managed to take notice and are doubling down on Devil May Cry beyond just the second season of the anime, so to speak. This report basically confirms that internally they're going to be creating or supporting the creation of new releases, remakes, or ports. One of the biggest sort of hurdles that people love to mention is the fact that Itsuno-san is no longer at the helm of the Devil May Cry series. He's not even at Capcom anymore, right? It looks as though later on in this report and some other articles that I managed to find, they mention that, they've continued to invest in amalgamating a set of world-class in-house developers or creators, essentially strengthening their so-called human capital, as their report puts it, going on to things like training and recruiting, different developers. So it looks like they are gearing up for the expansion of some of these well-beloved brands into, core IPs, however they want to call it. Tangibly though, what exactly does it mean? I think there's a couple of options that Capcom have at their disposal here. The first and most obvious and potentially easiest thing they might be able to do is continue their long line of ports of the Devil May Cry series to Nintendo hardware. In quite rapid succession, Capcom managed to port DMC 1, 2, and 3 to the Nintendo Switch, with 3 actually receiving some incredibly popular and well-beloved features that you can't get anywhere else. Those of course being co-op and the style switcher mode. A lot of people, myself included, were quite perplexed that they didn't follow on from this success with the release of DMC 4 Special Edition on the hardware. I'm not entirely sure if it's as a result of hardware limitations, though I sincerely believe that might not be the case, but one such thing they could potentially do is bring DMC 4 Special Edition over to the Nintendo Switch 2. Capcom, if you're listening, please, for the love of all that is unholy, Trisha's bathwater, whatever it is you want to swear on, do not give us another straight port of the HD collection for the PS5 console gen and beyond. I've already had to platinum that collection twice, and it cost me my sanity each time. I don't really want to do it for a third time, but I know that I probably will if the option is there. In terms of other ports, before we move on to some of the other sort of loftier dreams, they could also port DMC5 Special Edition straight to PC. That never got an official release on that platform. Perplexing, I know. Or even potentially DMC Devil May Cry Definitive Edition for PC either, if they want to, kick that beehive, so to speak. And then we come to the idea of a new Devil May Cry altogether. Now, rumors have already started swirling at this point, especially considering that Evanescence are going to be at the Game Awards performing their latest Devil May Cry anthem, which honestly I think is a bit of a banger, sue me. But beyond a showing of DMC Season 2 at the Game Awards, I honestly don't think we're going to get a new DMC. At least not this soon, which kind of lends credence to the idea of ports maybe incoming, because if they're going to try and react to the success that DMC is having, they're likely going to want to spin up the quickest projects possible, which are going to be things that are already established as opposed to new games entirely. But if I'm honest, I would absolutely love to see some sort of sequel to Devil May Cry. And then we land on the notion of a potential remake. To some, the games are getting a bit long in the tooth. For me, I still love them. The original Devil May Cry at this point is almost 25 years old, so hey, for its 25th anniversary, why don't they announce some sort of remake? I think if that were to happen, I'd probably go absolutely ballistic. And then the last and probably most harrowing thing that Capcom could potentially do, albeit I don't think they will, given they're doubling down on doing things internally, is going the Team Ninja route with Ninja Gaiden 4 and just outsourcing the development of Devil May Cry to another studio entirely. I honestly feel like that's potentially the riskiest move ever, and probably a PR nightmare if things go wrong, so I don't think that Capcom will go for that, even if it means we end up getting some sort of sanctimonious version of DMC4 the rerun where, the game has developmental troubles and, half the game is essentially repeated with backtracking. I still think they'd probably choose that than risk outsourcing it elsewhere. But that about does it for myself and my thoughts on this news. Honestly, a fantastic way to end the year. One I especially didn't see coming, but kind of felt made the most sense, given just how strong the Devil May Cry brand has been this year. And of course, if you disagree, or you feel like I've missed something, then let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, including what route you think Capcom are going to take next with the Devil May Cry series. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then do be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to stay up to date with anything and everything Devil May Cry. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.